Welcome, people. Thank you for joining. Maybe some of you already watched this talk on YouTube, but I will add some news here, so wait for it. Every great project starts with a disruptive idea. But then when you start, you start to think, okay, I have this idea and I need to take care of how I will build this when it's a software, right? So you are going to think about frameworks, you're going to think about tests, deploy, metrics, and other things like logs, among other things that will take a long time. You will maybe doubt yourself, and then you are stuck in a long, frustrating lead time. You didn't stop to work in your idea, and you're already stuck in some things that you need to figure out. So what if those questions were already answered, and everything that you need to do was just to implement your idea, to work on that instead of taking care of non-functional requirements? Would that be amazing? Back in 1999, when I started my career as a webmaster, webmaster, that was the title that time. Deploying a software was not easy task. And I remember reinventing the wheel every time, learning new things every time, to the point that I got really passionate about automation and infrastructure as code. Then in 2015, I joined Klarna in a former domain called the risk domain. For those who don't know what is a domain at Klarna is how the engineering is divided by problem space. That's a domain. So I joined the risk domain, and then the risk domain, they had third-party software that was really hard to scale. And then we did a bunch of work there. I'm really proud of what we did with my team, taming the beast and bringing the thing to the cloud and auto-scaling that. So in 2017, mid of 2017, Klarna was already a very different company from the one that I joined. It was a new fish on the ocean bank. And customer obsession and like fast deliveries, meeting requirements fast was the rule. And then I was talking to Julio, my friend, and he said, "Are you interested in facing a new challenge?" I said, okay. He started to explain to me what he was working on. He newly joined a new domain, consumer app, where they will building the new Klarna app. And in this domain, they should have something that was easy to deliver, to meet customer requirements, fixes, new features in no time. So they decided to do this in a monorepo. That was my face. Like, sounds messy to me. Because, you know, building automation, pipelines, everything for one software, it's already really challenging. Now, can you imagine building this for a constantly changing group of softwares? They are maybe connected or loosely connected, but they still have their own life cycles. It's quite challenging. Well, I like challenges, actually. Then I accepted. And that's how I joined the team inside this domain that's called App Platform Foundation. And being part of this team and working with the Monorepo actually taught me some things why Monorepo is such an attractive idea for many people, from many developers, companies, and so on. And that's what I came here to share with you. So I want to take you in a smooth ride where I will explain what is a monorepo, the 5 aspects I find that are appealing, and the challenges to keep that going on. I want to present some numbers so you have an idea of a scale of what we are talking here. And I will answer the question that I get the most, which is, do I need a monorepo? So this is not a new idea. And you might have heard before that Google has a monorepo and Facebook has a monorepo. And as you might, more or less, I would say, get the idea, you have many projects in one single repository, Git repository. And then they could be unrelated, loosely connected, sharing some things. And the main part, the part that everybody thinks when I speak about the monorepo, is about a large amount of commits, large amount of files, large amount of people working on the same thing. And that's really scary. But still, bear with me, and I will tell you about the things that I found the most appealing. Then we will go there, and I will talk about those ugly things. So the 5 aspects are tooling, standards, cohesion, accountability, and communication. And what the things have in common is that those are the things that enable the teams in the app ecosystem to deliver value, the softwares with value and confidence. Well, confidence and speed. Which, by the way, is my team's statement. Or our team. My team is there too. So, let's start by tooling. What I mean by tooling is working in a monorepo, you can figure so many projects, everyone may be doing a lot of different things. We want to have a monorepo that works for everybody, so we want to make things easier. Do you remember that disruptive idea was talking about? It's like, if you want things already solved for you, some things need to be automated. So tooling is more about automation. It's about not reinventing the wheel every time. So then it reduces the cognitive load on the developer. So if you just join the team and you want to create your new service, you want to start by doing a first PR, you can do that very quickly because the amount of things that you need to learn in order to work in the monorepo, it's very few. You need to know some commands and you're done. So let me give an example of what I mean about commands and then you're done. Something that's very important in every project is compliance, right? Sorry, my ring is on my ears. Yeah. So when you start to develop a software, you need to be concerned about compliance, what your company wants security-wise, what kind of pipelines are you going to do, what kind of things you are going to test, and so on and so forth. So by using our tooling, the monorepo, you're going to get, for free, a continuous integration, continuous delivery, error report, metrics, security scanners, monitoring, and enriched logging. So imagine that you're just starting your service, and already when you just create it, you will get those things. And how do you get those things in our monorepo? This is one of the toolings that we have. We have a command to create a service. And what this is going to do is, by using this command, we're going to inject in your code a library that we have. And that library is actually delivering most of the compliance that I showed you there. So you create your first service, you provide some information. You need the name, you need the team that's going to be accountable for that. And then you're done. With this, you are kind of ready to do your first PR and ship it. But of course, I need to talk about the challenges about keeping those toolings. It's an ever changing thing, because every team, every domain that gets inside the monorepo comes with a new idea, a new need, and those things need to be updated. So we need to build tooling to make the developer's life easier. So if they have new ideas and they have new demands, we need to update those things. But we need to keep in mind that we are in the monorepo and we want to keep some standards, which is the second thing that I want to talk about. So why we can have toolings? Because we have standards. So if everybody is the same, like same structure, same coding, linting, same ways of defining things, so, you know, standards. It's possible to have tooling, it's possible to have a community, it's possible to have everybody with the same context. And every time a new project arrives, we try to take that in consideration. So we say, okay, what is about your new software? Can we make this fit in this standard, or do we need to update this? And here comes the challenge. So it's an ever-changing monorepo, many new systems and softwares coming, libraries even. And then we need always to keep track of what's happening with the community inside the monorepo to say, okay, do we need to change this standard? So this maybe is not fitting anymore all the needs. This is challenging, but it pays off, because there is another thing that I think is very cool in the monorepo, which is cohesion. So by keeping the standards, we keep everybody together. So if you need to change more than one code or more than one project, you can do in one PR. You need to change a library, you need to change a microservice, and you need to change a command and the front end. You can do in one PR. So the same thing, so one idea, one feature, new feature, you have that PR. And that's amazing, that's super cool. When you deliver that in the pipeline, so the pipeline will test all the things, depending on how the tests are made, together or separated. And that's the cool thing, having cohesion standards. Of course, there are some challenges too, because I said you can do everything in one PR. But do you remember I said each software, each service has its own life cycle? Maybe I said it very early. Which means that we have a lot of microservices in this monorepo. And maybe the microservices, they are doing very small things, what is supposed to do. So we are delivering all of them. And in one PR, you change more than one, and maybe one of them got some problems. It could be infrastructure problems, could be any kind of problems. So maybe one of them was not deployed, but the other ones will be deployed, which means that if one of your microservices is dependent on that one or dependent on that one for some reason, you need to think about graceful degradation. You need to have your code prepared for that inconsistently, like eventual inconsistency for a while. So that's a challenge, because that's also about keeping good practice, right, with the teams. We need to keep talking to them and maybe adding in the library, in the main library, we add things, toolings for that. The community will do that, like the graceful degradation is one of the things, limited rating, I don't know, versioning, this kind of things that we all need in software development. And talking about this, what happens if we have like a change that will affect more than one team. It's nice in the monorepo that we have accountability, which is the fourth thing I want to talk. Meaning that, suppose that you need to change some library. You will know in the monorepo who is the owner of that. So then you can add your code, do a change, create a PR, and talk to that owner to approve your changes. And if you did your change and something went wrong, maybe this team can pair with you and see what happened. Other things about accountability, easy accountability in monorepo is that since everything is automated and we have the tooling, we can tag every resource that all the services are using. So if we have database in Redis, this is going to be tagged. And then it's easy at a company level to calculate costs and this kind of things. The challenges on that, and exactly about that, is when you have those shared resources. So if you have a shared library or if you have a shared database or whatever other shared things, then who is responsible for keeping those things, right? In this monorepo, and I'm talking about the Klarna app monorepo specifically, we have this team that's called App Platform Foundation, or Foundations, which is the one that I joined, remember? Though this team is actually taking care of those shared things. So we have this library that I was commenting out, which is the KNS library. I didn't translate that, Klarna node service. That one we take care. But every other member in the monorepo, the contributor, is also allowed to do some coding there, adding some code, and then talk to us to see what's happening, if that really applies to everybody, and this kind of things. So we are the ones taking those shared resources. We are accountable for that. But again, if you did a change in some other team's code, and you want to do a PR and everything, you will be pinged. That team is going to be pinged, which leads to something which is the fifth thing that I want to talk, which is communication. What I've been saying here is that you need to talk to people. You know that there is a code. Since you are in the monorepo, you have the context, you have the code, you can easily find who is the owner, who did that, or change the other things, but you need to communicate with those people. So what we have for communication, we have this Slack channels, we have emails, not very good emails, but Slack are better messages. We go maybe on the Teams, we do Hangouts, and what we are trying to do is like keeping the community feeling. So we do, in our team, we are kind of responsible for keeping the documentation, not only us, but the community itself, but we are the ones like leading. We are, the foundation would say, we are the ones giving the tracks, trying to keep that up to date, let the community shine and be alive, and this kind of things. But, of course, I'm saying a bunch of words, but it's challenging to keep a community. I would say, like, for instance, the Fika.js community is really hard to keep that flowing, right? Keeping with new content, calling people to talk, in our case, is the same. The way that we can ensure that this is always, it keep going, is that we are always responding in the channels very fast, but we are not the only ones. Since the context is the same for everybody, more than one person already knows or had the same problem, and they start to answer. We incentivize, no, you can answer, you can talk to that person also had the same case, maybe you can share some ideas, and so on and so forth. So this is hard, but it pays off. People will, at some point, feel very independent. They know what's happening, they know how to help other people. So we are not the only ones in the platform helping out. We are the first, but not always the only ones. So now I can talk about some numbers that I promise. Right now in the monorepo, we have around 280 people collaborating. And we have 170 microservices around, 400 builds per day. Yeah, daily numbers now. 50 merges, and around 500 deployments of new disruptive ideas, or maybe just a massive base container image update that will trigger all the things at once, maybe more. And those are huge numbers. And this is not really easy to keep. You can imagine that every time something goes wrong in the pipeline, there's going to be some kind of trouble, people pinging, and that's true. People will ping us, people will try to find out what's happening. It's kind of crazy, but still works in an organical way. And then I need to talk about the toolings we are using for that. So those toolings here, 27, I guess. Most of you maybe already work with those, and some others are Klarna built, like Starbucks, C2C, experimentation platform, those things. We also have the Clico portal, we'll talk about this. As you might know, not all this tooling is actually ready for Monorepo. So we need to do a lot of work on that. And this work is the tooling that we tailor. So we do things to make that possible, to make the toolings that the software that we are relying on to be okay to work with the Monorepo or the things that we do there. And then I want to give special attention to some of this. So I think one of the most important ones is the Git LFS. How many of you already work with that or know that? Okay, for those who don't work, never worked, it's amazing when you have binary files like images or maybe bigger, huge files, other kind of binaries, which this tooling will make your pulls and push much easier, much lighter. You will have more space in your storage because of that. Because what this does is that it will create like a text to point to your big file. And that's how it will version. You can read the documentation there. It's amazing and simple the way that works, and it works super good for us. So right now, what I can tell, and I was sharing some idea with my colleague about how long does it take today to do a pull. And I came back from vacations like before yesterday. I was 10 days away. And then I did the pull, and it took less than 5 seconds. But then I have another friend, and he said, yeah, less than 10 seconds for sure, but I'm not sure about 5. But that it could be. But I still would say, for the amount of time, we started this in 2017. It's about one huge knot. It's one specific context, which is the app, the Klarna app. We are in 2019. I still think less than 10 seconds is quite good for a Monorepo that contains so many people, so many commits every day, and so many files. So I would say that's very good. And then we also have the Clico portal, which is newly fresh from the press. So our team had this huge backlogs, ideas. Visibility is one of the main issues that we face with having so many microservices running in one pipeline. And what I mean is like Jenkins pipeline that we were using right now. So we have one file, not exactly just one, but it's more or less. We have that's going to call everything that needs to be called for that specifically commit. We have tooling to specify what should be tested, run, deployed, and so on and so forth. So not everything is going to be deployed. Just the things that were changed, just the things that are meaningful for this commit. And visibility for the developers is a nightmare, because if they do one change, they want to know what's going to happen with their change, right? What sort of test is going to run? What sort of other services are going to be triggered because of that change? And so on and so forth. So this portal is something that was built for improving this visibility. And then hopefully we can also use this to be our main place to concentrate all the knowledge about what's happening in the pipeline, what's happening with the libraries, and so on and so forth. But about this specifically, Monorepo, the Klarna app one. And okay, so the aspects I mentioned here before will need to be solved in any software, in any project. And most of the things can be ignored for a while, but it will definitely impact in the delivery and the quality of your project over time, along the run. So the Monorepo scales this process, this development process, making it possible to meet demands quickly and reliably. So every great project starts with a disruptive idea, and this idea will eventually grow and become complex. And if quality and speed is important for you, so maybe a Monorepo fits you. There is there is pain, but there is also profit. Thank you.